Welcome to the Hockey Huddle, the ultimate podcast for hockey fans by hockey fans, where we break down the latest on and off ice from power plays to game-changing trades. Whether you're a diehard fan or new to the sport, we've got all the action, analysis, and hot takes you'll need to stay in the game. We'll bring you exclusive interviews with other fans, weekly breakdowns, and everything you need to know from the NHL and beyond. So lace up your skates, grab your stick, and let's drop the puck on today's episode of the Hockey Huddle. Hey, here we are, episode number 8. I can't believe it's episode number 8 already. It's the Hockey Huddle with Hunter and Hogan. Jay over in the greater Toronto area, or the greater St. Catharines area. I'm out here in Calgary, not San Jose, and we're excited to be back with you. You'll notice that someone's missing this week, so Shane has disappeared. He's lost in the woods, or maybe like that hiker in BC who was missing for 5 weeks and they found him, which is good news, but maybe Shane's gone. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he's hiking in BC. So, sans Shane this week. We've got a few things to talk about this week. We're going to talk about some Leafs games, a couple of games this week, one good one and one absolute pile of doggy poo-poo. And we're going to talk about a little funny business in the Montreal-Columbus game. We're going to talk about some salary cap stuff. We're going to talk about something like a horrifyingly scary story out of a fellow podcaster. I think I just called us podcasters, by the way, or video podcaster. Vodcasters? Video?
Vodcasters? Yeah, I like that, buddy. Vodcasters.
Yeah. Podcasters, whatever. Yeah. Trademark. TM. See, copyright.
Purpose.
Okay.
On purpose.
I went to Calgary game, and I don't want this podcast to be about bitching about refs, but I'm gonna bitch about refs again. We have got a case of major injustices in this overtime loss that Calgary had, and then we'll talk a little bit about some Calgary stuff. Being here in Calgary, talk about some Calgary stuff. So, Jay, let's talk about the Florida game. So, tough game for the boys and down early. And what were you thinking? What do you think about that game?
First thing, just to update everybody, Shane's actually peeing. So, and he said he's going to be peeing for the whole podcast. So, he'll be back next week, he said.
He had to pee so bad, he's still peeing.
He's still peeing. Austin Powers pee, right? Yeah, for sure. He was frozen in time. Yeah, in a capsule. Yeah, no, that game, buddy, like it was almost like the Leafs are riding this wave, and secretly we're all going, oh my gosh, we can do this good without Austin Matthews, right? And so we're like, oh my gosh, and as true Leaf fans, we always do, we're like, but imagine what we can do when our best player comes back. So we fly into Florida, and we just laid an egg. It was terrible. It was a bad game, and we lost 5-1. Yeah, downer totally. It wasn't the goaltending's fault, not at all. One was a power play, one-timer over to the side. He almost got over to the other side to stop it. The other one he couldn't even see at all. He was screened by us and another player, and we were down 2-0 early, right? And so normally not back in the day, but the 7 games prior, we would find a way to work our way through. But it just seemed that we just couldn't score. It just wasn't happening. And Rick and I were talking that when Matthews is out there, at any time he could score. And you always feel that way. And when you started to feel that way with Nylander and a little bit with Marner this year, but when you had all of them, you just always felt good. And I didn't feel that way. Not at all.
I agree with you. Like it is not like the team that can score whenever they want or score at will. That's not the team that showed up against Florida. Much like the playoffs, it's not like Florida ran over them last year, and they started down 2-0. Like right away, it's down 2-0. It's like, oh God, this is painful. I've got a little group chat going with my some of my sisters with my sisters. And it's down 2-0 already. It's like, oh my God. And the swear words that we share on this group chat were colorful and plentiful. So, I think the one bright spot, the goaltending was fine. There's no blaming this on the goalies, but the kid line, you mentioned the kid line. How fun is Alex Minton and the other Nylander and Grabinkin? How fun are they to watch? Like, they look like the real deal.
They look fantastic, but I think it's Fraser Minton, not Alex Minton. But I know that you're kind of in shock because you have to pay all those Tim Horton points to me, the 84 points that I won fair and square. 84 points.
We went double or nothing on Kadri coming to the Leafs.
I don't know if I want to do that. I want to recant that, because I didn't realize
recant it.
I didn't know that. I didn't remember or know that Kadri is 34, which is 29 in dog years in NHL hockey. I didn't realize he was that old. I mean, maybe sometimes you forget how old you are as a person. And I was thinking, yeah, he's 29. And then I went, wait, Matthews is 27. Do the math. No, he's not.
No.
So I don't know if he's who we need. But to go back to the kid line, you're right, buddy. They played fantastic. They played as a unit. I think in the AHL, they played together and they kind of learned how each other were going. So he rolled that line all night. It looked great. And then when Bobby McManus got injured, another forward got injured in a game, he pulled Grbinkin up to that top line, and he got an assist, and then they took it away, but really he deserved an assist for the play that he had for that goal, and he did an amazing job. So I really like Grbinkin. I don't think you should send him down. He needs to stay up, and we need to divorce Nick Robertson.
You know, before we go any further, you and I have this thing, and this kind of feels like Friday at 3. This kind of feels like a Jabe. And did I say Alex Minton? Like,
yeah.
So obviously it's
Friday at 3, brother. It's all happening again.
It's piping in the vents. This is all happening all over again. And we're going to bring someone on the pod, hopefully next week, who is going to explain some of these inside jokes about Friday at 3 and Little Jurgens and all that kind of stuff.
It's so much fun. I feel the way right now. I don't even know why, but maybe because it's Black Friday, right? And you kind of get run into the ground a little bit, and you work hard on these days, and it's mentally and physically draining in the job that we both have. And maybe that's why we're feeling the way that we're feeling today. Sort of like the kid line. The kid line did great, man, and I think they need to keep that line intact. But you know who's
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question with the kid line.
Sure.
Is Grbinkin the real deal? Is he really a hard forechecker, a hard back checker? Is that really who he is? Or is this just kind of a flash in the pan? He's up in the big show, and this is just a temporary thing.
So are you asking me if forecheck, back check, paycheck is for real?
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm asking you.
You know what? He's for real. Because you know what? When you watch him, again, he's the type of player when you're actually at the game that you would kind of follow. You know, when you're at the game, you don't have to follow where the cameras go, right? So the cameras go where the puck is and stuff like that. But he's the kind of character that you would want to watch the game, throughout the game, his interaction with the players, with the refs, during whistles blowing, like how he actually reacts. I think what you see is what you get with Grbinkin. I don't think it's an act. I think it's the real deal.
I think you're right. I think it is the real deal, and he's been fun to watch and easily a fan favorite with his quote about forecheck, back check, paycheck. Like, that's hilarious. And
he loved it, eh? He loved it. His laugh was so genuine. It wasn't a fake laugh, not like Kawhi Leonard, fun guy. Grbinkin was amazing, and he loved it. He's a great character player, man, for sure.
Love the character. Well, yeah, love the character. You were going to say something else about that line. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think they all have their role, right? So I think that Alex Nylander is similar to his brother when he's a shooter. He needs to, obviously, if he's going to be his brother, improve his skating and his edge work and stuff like that. But I think that he's the kind of guy that's going to shoot the puck. Grbinkin's the guy who's going to go in like Matthew Nyes and punch you in the corner, and then also stand out front of the net and tip shots. And then you have the two-way center in Minton there who can also shoot. And so I think it's a younger version of what our top line already is right now. And, you know, that's exactly what we're looking for. So if that's going to be your fourth line or your third line even, I think we're good. And Rick and I talked earlier about, you know, Shane actually did, right, Shane? Oh, sorry, you're not here. Anyways, he talked about getting a second line center or a third line center. And a lot of times, I think we use some of our draft capital to go out and get these things that we don't necessarily need because we already have it here on the team. So, I mean, we've done it where we've picked up Nick Foligno, you know, his back at her, whatever. He didn't really contribute. We lost out in the first round. We spent a lot of draft picks on some character players, but I think we have it internally now. So unless we're going out to get somebody like, and we can talk about who we're going to pick up potentially later on in the cast, but I think that let's just stay with who we got from within and play with the team and follow the system, eh?
Yeah, so we don't have a ton of draft capital and we don't have very good prospect strength, but seeing these guys up in the show has definitely changed my opinion about our prospect strength. So if you look at these two young guys that have come up, or the three young guys that have come up into the team, Alex Nylander's not really a young guy, but you look at these three new guys that have come up in Minton, in Grbinkin, and in Nylander, and I feel better about the future of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, how can you not feel better about the future of the Leafs with these three guys and the energy and the, you know, hopefully that's something that stays and that, you know, sticks around and, you know, definitely definitely exciting to watch, and I've enjoyed watching these guys play. And it's definitely, edge of your seat. You're watching the game, you're seeing what they're doing, and I'm loving it. It's the one thing I'm missing from the Leafs right now is there is a very, very clear and noticeable chemistry between John Tavares and Mitch Marner. And they have this just magical chemistry where they know what they're doing, they know where they are, they set each other up. Tavares does a good job at setting Mitch Marner up, and I think it's this group that these two that you can't separate. You need to keep them together throughout this year. You need to let that chemistry grow. And if I'm Craig Berube, that's a group that I'm keeping together. I'm keeping John Tavares, Mitch Marner, and fill in the blank here. Who's that person? I'm not sure. Is it Nylander? Is it McMahon? Is it whomever? But there's some magic there. Like how can you not have those guys together? Especially when you look at like the skill that Mitch Marner has been showing is just so high. His skill level is so high, and I'm asking myself now, like watching Mitch play and watching him score all these goals and watching how good he's been. Is he so good because he's playing for a contract, or is he so good because he has someone he doesn't have someone to pass to now? So when he's on the line with Matthews, where are you going to defer? You're going to defer to Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
Matthews isn't here. Who are they going to defer to? Mitchie. And he's been shooting, and he's been scoring goals, and he's looked amazing, and he's scoring overtime winners, and he's looked fantastic. I think you need to separate him from Austin Matthews, and I think you need to stop giving Mitch Marner someone to pass to and let him shoot and score goals and show off his hands and his speed and his talent. I hope the case is that he's been given a chance to shine, and this just isn't a flash in the pan for a contract.
You know what? I think you're right, buddy, because the difference really between Marner over the past 9 games is he's shooting the puck. And you alluded to it, he's always deferred to Matthews, and because Matthews is a better overall shooter, obviously, and Mitch is a super smart player, but there's times when you need to take that time and take the shot, and who knew he had a shot like he does? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he surprised me, like that overtime shot, just right over his right shoulder of the goaltender, like amazing shot. So, and you'll be happy. Yes, exactly, right over that shoulder. You'll be happy to know that I was reading today, Matthews and Matthew Knies are both coming back for the Tampa game. I thought Matthews might have waited one more game, but anyways, they're going to be back for the Tampa game. And the line is Matthew Knies, Matthews, and William Nylander. Think about that line. I wouldn't want to get in front of that line. That's going to be crazy. But then you got John Tavares, Mitch Marner, and if Bobby McMahon's not back, Gurbankin's going up on that line. So that's going to be your second line. And I question the bottom 2 lines then because he's got Alex Steves in there. And Steves, I mean, he's trying and stuff like that. But again, he should be in the top 2 lines on a team if he's playing somewhere. And hasn't really scored and haven't really noticed them or not noticed them. You know what I mean? So maybe defensively he's doing well, but I would much rather have a guy with more upside and having Alex Nylander up on that third line. And they just keep throwing Robertson in there, man. I'm like, dude, he's not scoring. He's not doing it. He's not contributing, right?
He's got to go to a team where he can get that second line minutes and he can be allowed to flourish a little bit. And he's got to be on a team that doesn't have those big, high-powered offensive guys. So you can't keep mixing him in there. He's got to go to a team. He's got to end up in like an Anaheim, a San Jose, Chicago, a Pittsburgh. Like look at Pittsburgh right now and look at the struggles that they're having. He's got to land somewhere like that. And there's got to be a good trade partner out there. I don't know if Utah is the trade partner. I'd love to see him moving to Utah.
Yeah.
And there's some.
You
good
already know
pieces.
who I want from Utah. You already know who I want from Utah, and I agree with you with that trade.
We're on the same page. Like we're on the same page when it comes to who's coming there. Let's talk about that in a second because you brought up a really great point when we were having our pre-show meeting, and you mentioned about Matthew Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk.
Yes.
Being a rat and just the way he was playing. Tell me, like tell me about it.
We talked about this. So there's 2 Tkachuk brothers. So you got Brady Tkachuk and you got Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk is what I would equate to someone as being a bully. He's a bully. He acts all big. He goes in there, smell my glove, punches you in the head when you're not looking. But when you turn around and you want to go, he's the first one to turtle, right? He's gone and he goes, and he never I think I've only seen him in one fight, and that was against Pasternak. When, like, come on, Pasternak's never fought in anyone ever, and so Tkachuk figured, well, I'm going to take down their best player. I might as well fight. But most,
is that
go
the
ahead.
game where Pasta had to ask permission to fight?
Yeah. He went up and he goes, "Is it okay if I fight, Coach?" Coach goes, "Go, go get him."
That's right. Yeah.
Which was so awesome. I wish he would have dummied Tkachuk, because Matthew, come on, he's a bully, right? And he's not the real deal, and he's that little whiny bitch. And you're like, come on, buddy. But you know who's a real is his brother, Brady Tkachuk. And Brady will push around, do the same thing, but you want to drop him, anyone, he goes. And didn't you hear something? There was a Florida-Ottawa game, and what were they saying in Ottawa when they were playing? What, I can't remember. What were they saying?
Yeah, they're cheering. So it's in Ottawa, and they're cheering, Brady's better. And
oh yeah, that's right. I remember. Yeah.
I'm just laughing and listening to this, thinking, okay, you go, Ottawa. And now Matthew Tkachuk's on the bench laughing about it. He's taking it. I guess he's taking it like a pro. But is there some truth in that? Is Brady Tkachuk the better Tkachuk? Like, who would you build your team around?
Oh, Brady Tkachuk all day long. A lot of times I went back to even look at that, right? I'm like, I don't remember Brady Tkachuk even scoring any goals, right? And so I go back, and dude scored over 30 goals. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't think he had the hands, right? Like, I always see him fighting people, punching people, doing stuff, and I feel so bad for Ottawa. I picked Ottawa to make the playoffs, and they just suck. You know what I mean? Like, it's like no matter what, no matter what they do, they can't win. They finally got a goaltender who was with Swayman, who they were the best goaltending tandem the last 3 years, and they have Allmark, and he sucks. And their defense looked super great, but they suck. I don't know. And then they signed everybody for $8 million. You scored over 20 goals, $8 million. You get $8 million. You get $8 million. You get, like, they were trying to do it right, but it's wrong. The team's not working right in Ottawa.
Yeah, it's tough go. Like, it's Ottawa's like, there's some good hardcore fans in Ottawa. It's a tough barn to play in when you're not playing well. Hopefully that new arena gets built kind of downtown. I think it's in LeBreton Flats in Ottawa where they're going to rebuild this brand new arena, and you're going to see a few of these new barns come up in the league, but hopefully that kind of gives that team a bit of a spark. It's going to stay in Ottawa, and hopefully they can continue to build. And they've got some good young people. They've got some good young parts. And, Linus Allmark should be saving them. Like, he should be saving their asses a bit more than he is. So, I think, when your goalie is one of the better goalies, you should be winning more games than you are. And that just kind of speaks to the status of that team. And, at some point, Brady Tkachuk's going to be like, I've had enough of this. I just need I need a team that's going to win, or I need to be somewhere where I'm going to win. They're competitors. Like, that family is competitors. Their dad's a competitor. Like, obviously their dad played in the show forever. And hey,
no, I agree, buddy. Like, he's a great player. I would love to have him on the Leafs all day long. You know what I mean? Brady Tkachuk, come to Toronto, buddy. Come with us. Come for a real team, and we'll set you free. Absolutely.
Hey, let's talk about that player that you and I were talking about that, I can see coming to Toronto and fitting right in. And I'd love to see Nick Robertson be part of that trade back and forth. You and I are on the same page, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. One quick thing, because I just wanted to say one little thing that I noticed with the Florida game, and then we'll go on to that trade, was one thing I did find with the Florida players that were playing with Toronto, like Steven Lorenz. I love Steven Lorenz. I love what he brings. He went to hit a guy and turned and looked and saw who it was, and he eased up, right, twice. Like, in the game. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, same sort of thing. I was kind of like, they just got the rings that day, so like, well, I'm not going to punch you in the face today, but the next time we play you, we're punching you, right? So I think that might have been a little factor. There was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on there. But we'll end that Florida game, because we should have ended that game a long time ago, because the Leafs didn't show up. Anyways, so the trade that we're talking about is Lawson Crouse, man. This guy, he gets paid $4.3 million over the next 2 seasons. He's a beast. He's like 6'4", 6'5". He's a winger. He's heavy. He's heavy on the puck. He goes in the corners. He's going to protect. He's a big guy like Knives that can score, right? And the thing that Utah doesn't have, he doesn't have, or sorry, the team, they don't have anybody that can score. Who's their overall bona fide scorer there? Keller?
Logan Cooley?
Maybe Logan Cooley, but they're not scoring.
No.
But Robertson has that gift of the shot. And if you put that kid up on the first line or the second line, I'm telling you, I'd rather trade him to the West, because he's got an amazing shot. And when he finally gets that chance, when he's got nobody blocking his spot to come in, he's going to do super well. So who would we have to throw in with Robertson to get Lawson Crouse, Rick? Who do you think?
Who I would want to throw in. So David Kampf, Calhu Yarncroc, a bag of pucks, some like good.
Alex Steves.
Alex Steves. There's a lot of pieces I would move in that trade. I don't know that Utah has any need for David Kampf or Cal Yarncroc. I don't think they would pick that. I don't think that would pick that up in that trade. They do have a need for Robertson, so I think there's potential. But again, you got to be so cautious, right? Because you can't trade away draft picks. There's not a first-round draft pick this year. You can't not keep those draft picks around. And when you've got guys like Marner and Tavares contracts coming up and you don't have a first-round draft pick, you're thinking, like, I'm going to lose those two players potentially if they don't re-sign. And I don't have a first-round draft pick to kind of make up for that gap. Yeesh, that's a tough spot to be in.
For sure it is. Now, I also heard rumbling, and then again, we crossed this path before about talking about trading Matthews, and this guy who somebody was saying, if you really want to pick up a player that's going to make a difference for the Maple Leafs, you're going to have to trade something that's really good that could hurt you, maybe not right away, but in about 3 years it could. But if you trade him to get the piece that you need to win that Stanley Cup, it makes sense. So the player that I'm going to talk about, and don't throw anything at me, Rick, you know, especially because you're the guy he's already got in his hand, Easton Cowan, right? So if you trade Easton Cowan to, say, Pittsburgh, do you think that if Sidney Crosby would agree to it...
You're not going to say something ridiculous here, are you?
If Sidney Crosby... What? No, it's a Friday at 3. Sidney Crosby for Easton Cowan, and then maybe we throw in a couple players to offset his salary, like...
Nick Robertson, David Kampf.
Right, and Cal Yarncroc and whatever, right? So we get rid of like 3 or 4 players and Easton Cowan for Sidney Crosby. If Sidney Crosby okays it, would you do that if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Wow. Would I? So I think the answer to the question is, would I trade for Sidney Crosby? Yes, I would definitely trade for Sidney Crosby. And in what? So if I'm thinking of where he fits in the lineup, it would be in what capacity would he play for the team? Now, he's making $8.7 million, so it's a big salary. So you've got to find salary to move. Yeah. Is he an upgrade from a couple of guys? Is he an upgrade from Max Domi?
Max Domi, yes, 100%.
Is he an upgrade from Max Domi 3 years from now?
Is he Crosby 3 years from now? I don't know. I mean, I think we have him for 2 years if we sign him, but it's going to be with the Stanley Cup.
So that's the question. So is he the elixir? Is he part of the magic elixir that helps the team win the Cup? Can you do it with John Tavares and Sidney Crosby and Austin Matthews and what happens in the fourth line? So somewhere along the line there.
Yeah.
Right, and you're going to have to give up something way bigger than you want to give up. Like, you're going to have to give up something like Joseph Woll. You know, third star of the week last week, Joseph Woll. That's who you'd have to give up something big because you don't have draft pick capital. You don't have that to spend.
What about Matt Murray? We'll give up Matt Murray. Back to Pittsburgh. So Easton Cowan, like, if you could get Sidney Crosby,
Easton Cowan for Sidney.
I don't
know if Pittsburgh does that trade.
What? For sure they do.
I would. Well, here's my answer. I would definitely trade Easton Cowan for Sidney Crosby. Obviously, they're not going to take a straight up deal. I would trade Easton Cowan and for Sidney Crosby and Nick Robertson. Yeah. And you're going to have to put something else in there, and it's going to be a goalie or something like that.
So what about Hildebeest? We put in Hildebeest in there because he's an up-and-coming goalie. They don't have any goalie prospect in Pittsburgh. So it's Hildebeest, but it's not Wall because you got to look at it this way. Solars is a little bit older, right? How old is Solars? Like 30? 30? Okay. He's 30. So if you put in the Hildebeest, Easton Cowan, Nick Robertson, and whatever else to balance Crosby's salary, and you know what, we take who else would we want from that team? Who's number he played for us before, number 55 for Pittsburgh. He was 55 for us. Yeah, we'll take back Noel Chari and Sidney Crosby for Robertson, Cowan, and Hildebeest.
You can't make that work though with the cap. So you got, there's a big contract that has to move the other way to make that work. And who's the big contract? Like, where's that $9 million going back? Because Robertson's on a league min, and Hildebeest is on a league minimum.
Yeah, so that's only 200,000. That's only not even 2 million, 1.5.
Not even. So you've got to find $7 million somewhere to go back the other way.
So it would have to be.
Who's the $7 million?
Well, if you did those other players, you did Yarncroc, Camp, so that's 4. That's almost 5 million. Plus the other one, that's 6. We're getting close, right?
And then, I think Pittsburgh needs, like, they're going to want some youth back. That's what they're going to want. But would they eat part of the salary? So would they hold back some of that salary and then Toronto pays them in some kind of back alley deal for that salary? Or
Or we
you know,
involve another team. So, or Pittsburgh wants draft capital too. So even if you do, well, I don't know to eat half the contract would take what, like a first round pick?
again,
Okay, so
when that's your next year's pick, so you don't have a first round pick until next year. Can you justify trading your only first round draft pick in the next 2 years when you don't have a ton of prospect strength for 2 years of Sidney Crosby, because you're going to get 2 years of Sidney Crosby.
so let me ask you this differently. If I
Okay.
told you, if you traded your first round pick in 2027, we'll say, Easton Cowan, Robertson, Yarncroc, Kampf for Nola Chari, we'll just say the math works, okay? We'll figure it out. Nola Chari and Sidney Crosby for a Stanley Cup, would you do it?
Yes, in a
Okay.
heartbeat.
I think we've made our decision.
It's not even a question. If it means that, so as a fan, as a Toronto
Yeah.
Maple Leafs fan, what
Yeah.
matters to me is the Stanley Cup coming to Toronto. That's
Yes.
what matters. And there will be all kinds of refereeing injustices and power edges in arenas and hotel alarms being pulled, and there'll be all kinds of shenanigans to
Yeah.
dissuade that. If that meant, so if Sidney Crosby coming to Toronto for 2 years means the Toronto Maple Leafs win a Stanley Cup, then you made the right move. Just like our conversation about Austin Matthews. Could you trade Austin Matthews? If I could make the trade if it meant that we traded back the parts that win the team the Stanley Cup. Despite the emotional attachment about having potentially the greatest goal scorer of our time on the team, that doesn't matter if the team is not winning the Stanley Cups.
Right. And so the thing with Matthews is he's an amazing two-way player. So they're winning despite not having Matthews. So I don't think that, I mean, it made us start thinking that way, that we could probably add different components or different pieces. But I think that we win the Cup if we have Sidney Crosby. I think we win it. Like, look at this.
We had some comments on our social media channels, and somebody had mentioned when we had asked, would you trade Austin Matthews? And we had somebody come back and say, Cale Makar.
Yes.
That is an interesting suggestion, and that is probably a straight up trade or a straight up with some bits and pieces here and there. But could you move Austin Matthews for Cale Makar? And if it's, again, I don't know. I don't know if I can make that move, because I know that Cale Makar brings a Stanley Cup. Think of the pedigree that Sidney Crosby brings. Sidney Crosby brings the golden goal. He brings Stanley Cup pedigree. He brings experience. And the guy is 37 years old now, and he's playing with some grit. Like he is. He has got that team on his back, and the only reason they have any chance of winning most nights is because this guy has found a gear at 37 years old. He's amazing. I would love to have him on the team.
Built to win. Okay, so what's the guy in Pittsburgh, the GM, president? I can't remember his name.
I think he used to work for a team that I like.
Sudbury or Sault Ste. Marie or something. Anyways, that guy. Do you think if he trades Sidney Crosby, and Crosby agrees with it, and he picks up Easton Cowan and he solidifies that Pittsburgh team again for another run?
Did Kyle Dubas draft Easton Cowan?
That's affirmative. Did he not? Or was that the draft that he didn't draft? I have to look back and see.
Was that Mark Hunter?
Maybe. No. Cowan was like only 2 years. So yeah, no. It was either Treliving's first draft.
It definitely wasn't Treliving's draft.
Well, then it was our friend in Pittsburgh. It was his. I can't say his name.
You can't say Kyle Dubas?
I can't say Kyle Dubas. Oh, you tricked me. No, so I think that was Kyle Dubas's draft, and he was drafting that type of player, and he heard from Mark Hunter, because he's a smart guy. You know, this kid, he's underrated. If he's there, pick him, right? What a great pick. And he's setting the record. I think his next game, he can potentially set the record for most points consecutively in the...
Oh, my God. Oh, it might be Brad Treliving who drafted him.
Was it Brad Treliving?
I'm looking at a picture of it right now, yeah.
Check it. That might have been Brad's first draft. It might have been. Might have been.
Yeah.
But anyways, so if you're Kyle Dubas, would you not do that deal? A first round, Easton Cowan and Nick Robertson.
Would he get lynched in Pittsburgh, though?
No, because you do it this way. Crosby's on his last legs out. We're not going to be able to win in the next 2 to 3 years. So Sidney wanted to set us up in Pittsburgh to go to, potentially win in the future. And he's such a great guy that he fell on the sword. And he's Canadian, so he went home. You could spin it from the Pittsburgh point of view. Like, it makes sense, because otherwise, Pittsburgh's not making it this year, man. Like, they're really not.
Pittsburgh is definitely not making it this year. I guess, yeah. I just see. I don't know if the Pittsburgh. I think the Pittsburgh fans would revolt, and there'd be a massive issue with like they would demand Kyle Dubas's head on immediately if he made that trade. I think no matter
He's
how
got a
they tried to
5-year
spin it,
deal. So
but if they,
would you rather wait 2 years and when he retires and says, "Thank you, Pittsburgh. I love you. Everything's been great. Sorry we sucked the last 2 years, but I really tried. I really tried." Or would you say, "Here, let me fill the cupboards again for you, or partially fill the cupboards, and give you some potential with Hildebeest as a goalie, two young forwards that could score and set up, and you know what I mean, and a first-round draft pick who Kyle Dubas he drafts well. Why would you know? I would rather have that if I was Pittsburgh. I really would.
yeah, I would love to have Sidney Crosby on the team. I think Sidney Crosby definitely gets them closer to a Stanley Cup. I would hate to have like the Doug Gilmour effect where you bring Dougie back and Dougie gets injured the first game back, or John Tavares plays the first game and Corey Perry busts his knee up. Like I would hate to see that happen.
Yeah, Phil Housley or Brian Leach come in for one game and get for sure. Yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. Okay, so why don't we go a different route?
So many times, right?
Why don't we go a different route? Would you? Okay, so we can change the trade now because the worth of the player that's coming in would not be as high. But what about Travis Konechny? Would you work some kind of deal with Easton Cowan, Robertson, and they need a goalie too, a big goalie. Put in Matt Murray and Hildebeest, right? So they got somebody who can play now because Murray looks like he's ready to play, right? He's been doing well down in the A, and that sounded weird. But he goes to Philadelphia, really piss off Pittsburgh, so he'd probably like that because he's a cerebral kind of FU kind of guy in Matt Murray. Hildebeest, Robertson, and Easton Cowan, or even tried to keep Easton Cowan out of it to get Konechny. Because I think Konechny's an RFA or UFA.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's a UFA next year.
Yeah.
Philly make that deal. So I think Philly is more likely to make that deal for some youth because they've done nothing. They have no draft capital. Yep. They haven't drafted well. They have no development program. Does Travis Konechny get you closer to a cup? I think he's definitely the best player on the Flyers. He's definitely that tough, gritty, like he is definitely, he's another one of those like guys you don't want to play against. He's a bit of a scrappy dude, but can also put the puck in the net. He's a good add to the team. I don't know what his salary is. Like, do we know what his like?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but again, we'd have to work some magic. But it's not 8.7 million. I know that I think it's under 7. We can double check there on Puckpedia there. But I mean,
he is. So he is in year 6 of 6. So he's a UFA. Yeah. And his cap hit right now is 5.5. That's much more manageable. That's much more manageable.
So maybe we go to Pennsylvania, but we go to see Mr. Konechny there. What do you think?
So it's a good add. It's a good add to the team. It's where does he fit? So does he fit in as the third line center? Is he the he's not the second line center. Like that does that move Tavares like de facto move Tavares and make him the second line center? And do you put Domi on a wing with somebody? Like does that line become Matthews, Domi, Nylander?
Yeah.
Tavares, Mitch Marner, Matthew Nyes, McMahon, who else? McMahon, Minton, Gurbankin. Yeah. And then Holmberg, Reeves, and go ahead. Yeah. No. That's interesting because at 5.5, Konechny, you can make again, if you move the right people, if you move the right salary, like that's kind of a thing that I could see that working. Another name that is out there is Brock Besser. So obviously Brock Besser is a bigger cap hit, but I think Brock Besser might be one of those people that he definitely gets you closer to a Stanley Cup. The question is where does he play? Where does he play? Who does he play with? And where's the chemistry? Is there any kind of chemistry there? Chemistry.
Well, again, I think we're always looking at having 1, 2, the third line is the checking line, and the fourth line is the energy line. But we don't have to be that way. Why don't we have 3 lines that can score and
Besser is a 6.6 million. Besser 6.6 million cap hit. Yep.
So I mean,
he's a year 3 of 3. He's a UFA, 28 years old. He's gonna if he comes in as a rental. What's the price on a Brock Besser rental, though? Good God, the price is going to be crazy for, 60 games worth of Brock Besser? Or, 60 games. 60 days, not 60 games.
Well, but see, that's why I'm thinking
Friday at
these are
3.
some of the Friday at 3. These are some of on purpose. These are some of the guys that I'm thinking that we could possibly get, like Brock Besser, Travis Konechny, Sidney Crosby might be pie in the sky kind of thing, but it was an idea that was out there. Someone else floated. I was talking with somebody. I think they may have been drinking, but anyways, I figured we'd bring it up. And there was one other player. Who was the other player on that list, buddy, that we were talking about? He's another
Well,
person who's gonna be.
you had Frank Vetrano on that list.
That's right. So from Anaheim.
I don't know that he brings. So Anaheim is definitely a trade partner. Anaheim is definitely in rebuild, and they're definitely looking for youth and like exactly what Robertson and Easton Cowan would bring. But I don't think the price for Vetrano is that high. The question is Frank Vetrano good enough to make that difference? And I don't know that Frank Vetrano is that guy. I definitely think that Konechny is that guy, and I definitely think Brock Besser is that guy.
Okay.
Crosby obviously is that guy.
Right.
But Frank Vetrano, again, I don't know what he's making. I'm going to have a quick look over here at Puckpedia.
Yeah. He's not making a whole ton, but he's a
UFA. He's 31 years old.
Yeah.
He's a lefty shot. And if you were to guess his cap hit, what would you say?
Let's say 6'5".
3.6.
Divided by 2 is 3. Yes. See, but this is part of the reason why I was thinking of these guys. So I'm looking at UFA. Right, so they're potentially going to leave anyways. 2, if these players are really tied to these cities and want to come back, you can trade them and they can always come back, right? So there's that aspect. And the teams that I was looking at were Vancouver's kind of on a downward swing, right? So the Magic and not having a goalie, not having Demko, there's really hurting them badly. And as much as they ripped Bruce Boudreau out of there because he was a terrible coach, and he's not. I love Gabby. He's fantastic. And putting Tocchet in there. Tocchet's great too, but when you have a great goalie, guess what? It hides a lot of badness that can happen on your team, right? So Vancouver, Anaheim, and Philadelphia are 3 teams that are going in a downward trajectory. So, and UFA and reasonable cap, and you know, I mean, that's why I was kind of looking at those were 3 guys I was thinking.
So
and
Frank Vetrano, Lawson Krause, again, I think Lawson Krause is a great add to the team. Vetrano scored 37 goals last year in 82 games.
Yep.
Like, that's significant. It's definitely his best year. He scored 24 goals with Florida in 2019. But again, so where does he play? Does he play on, like, he doesn't center his own line, I don't think, right? Or can he center?
So I think well, again, this is the call for that third line. So Matthews and Matthew Knies, there's the 2. We'll call it 2. Then you got Tavares and Marner. That's the 2. Then you can have Nylander and whoever else. Nylander. There you go. We'll just say it. Anyways. And then you layer in these different pieces, right? So Domi can go on any one of those 3 lines. McMahon can go on one of those 3 lines. Gurbankin can go on any one of those 3 lines. Or Krause, Konechny, Besser, Vetrano. And the reason I know about Frank Vetrano is because my wife Alex, she got like 2 7-game streaks last year because of him. She was picking him all day long, and I'm like, "What are you doing? She found."
What do you mean 7-game streaks, Jay? 7-game streaks on what?
So thanks for asking, Rick. So on Tim Hortons, on their hockey picks, if you get 7 games in a row with a goal, you get free coffee for the week for 7 days. And she had 2 streaks last year of 7 games. I had 2, but I live, breathe, and eat hockey. I love it. She went through and she's found these players. Troy Terry was another player 2 years ago that she used to pick from Anaheim as well, who was scoring. And so that's why I saw this guy. So Rick and I always talk about how can we dream to win the cup and to be, general managers of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we are general managers of the Toronto Maple Leafs in our video game 2024, and we do our own kind of setup. We do. And I think these are 4 players that are reasonable for us to pick up and to swap out. And if we win the Stanley Cup, we don't need defense anymore. We got the defense. The goaltending's doing well. But what always dries up in the playoffs is secondary scoring. So that's kind of why we were thinking these are the 4 guys.
Primary scoring as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, primary scoring.
So let me add just a little piece to the Tim Hortons thing. So Tim Hortons has this app, and on the app we can pick players. You pick 3 players out of the whole list of all the teams that are playing. And if any of them score a goal, you get some points. And if you get 7 games in a row where you pick a player to score, you get free coffee for a week. We have no affiliation with Tim Hortons. We're not sponsored by them. We're not advertising for them.
Yet.
But we could. Hello, Tim Hortons.
Hello, Timmy.
Just saying, the Hockey Huddle could be brought to you by Tim Hortons. Anyways,
That had a good ring to it, by the way.
It had a great ring to it, didn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, I want to. Can we shift gears for a sec?
Yeah.
Something crazy happened. So I want to talk about this crazy thing that happened, and I don't know if you listen to Spit and Chicklets broadcast, the Spit and Chicklets podcast.
Yeah.
It is definitely how it was my intro into podcasts. That and the Joe Rogan Experience were the two podcasts that I would listen to. Hey Lola, and one of the things that I thought was just this crazy thing was that Paul Bissonnette, who is the co-host of Spit and Chicklets along with Ryan Whitney, Biz got in an altercation at a restaurant in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he lives, and there was some dudes that were drunk and causing a ruckus, and Biz is a regular at this restaurant and decided, like, hey, I'm not going to stand for these guys putting their hands on the staff at this restaurant. I guess some of these people put their hands on the staff at the restaurant, and Biz essentially said, according to him in the podcast, said, touch this guy again, and we're going to step outside and we're going to have a conversation, or we're going to have a problem. And so this dude started swinging, and Biz started swinging. And according to Biz, he ate some and he gave some. And he, if you look at the pictures, Biz co-hosted his podcast the next day, or a day later, which is a true test to how amazing this guy is. Like, what a class guy. One, for sticking up for these restaurant people who are like trying to battle 9 drunken buffoons, and then for Biz to step in and just start tuning these guys up. He talked about these 5. It was 5-on-1. These 5 guys were ganging up on him, and then when you look at their mugshots, there's 6 guys mugshots, and you can see Biz. Like, obviously Biz he's been in a fight, and you can see that he's beat up a little bit, some damage. You look at the mugshots on these 6 guys, and it looks like they went one-on-one with him. They went through the ringer. So, I hope that I would have the stones in that situation to do what Biz did. I also think, like, what kind of idiots would put themselves in that situation where they all got tuned up by Paul Bissonnette, who was an enforcer in the NHL. And, like, you look at these guys and how messed up they are. He definitely got the better of them. Like, he definitely took them to church. And good for him.
Yeah.
He talked about knocking one guy out. One guy came running and he just dropped him, and good for him. What a good dude for doing that. Yeah. So I hated to hear the story. I was shocked by the story to think that, in today's day and age, 9 drunken buffoons are going to decide that they want to take on one guy or put their hands on restaurant staff or, whatever it is. Biz goes on and takes on 6 of them, and he's doing the podcast the next day, and these losers are in jail. Good for him.
Good on him. Dude,
good on him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think last podcast we talked about a nothing burger that he served up about Matthew Nye's hit to the head, and it was nothing to it, and I have no problem calling him out on that because I think he was wrong. But what he did, I applaud, and good for you, Paul Bissonnette, for standing up for people that really deserve to stand up. And, there was nobody else backing him up. He knew it was the right thing to do. And again, Rick, I agree. Kudos to him for doing that. And I was at his local rink in Welland because my youngest son, Jason, had a game there. And there was a picture of Paul Bissonnette's number 12, and it's a little write-up of him. And there's 3 or 4 other players that also played, Dan Girardi and Daniel Paillet, and there's a couple other players from Welland. Clutterbuck was there as well. But, it makes you proud to know that a Canadian's going to stand up for what he believes in, and he's going to do what he did. And we'll show you the pictures of the jerseys as well. Kudos to you, buddy. Great job, man. Obviously, everybody else is saying this, but it's true, man. So awesome job, man. Standing up for what you believe in.
Yeah, class guy. Standing up for the little guy too. I think that's great. And I was telling you earlier, he's co-hosting the podcast the next day, and they actually brought in Jeff Merrick as a co-host on the podcast as well. So they had Whit and Biz and Jeff Merrick, and I think I was telling you just before we got on hit record on the pod, I don't know if I hate Jeff Merrick because he just irritates the shit out of me, or if I admire him because he's got this incredible hockey knowledge. But he's kind of like this know-it-all, where the guy literally knows everything about hockey, everything. You can ask him, like, what shape was the puck in 1976, and was there a gouge missing out of the game with the Hartford Whalers and the Minnesota North Stars? And he would, that was, he'd have some answer, and
he totally
the guy's
knows,
a bit of a know-it-all. And he knows this, he knows his stuff. But God, is he irritating, and I can't decide whether I want to listen to this guy or I want to change the channel.
Does he come across as being a know-it-all, or does he just know it all? Is he the kind of guy who's like, Jeff Mark's the smartest guy in the world. Just ask him.
Yes.
Or
yes to both questions. He is that guy, and he is also a know-it-all. But it's like, I don't know.
it was weird why he was teamed up with Elliot Friedman then, because Elliot Friedman also sips from that same cup.
He does, and Elliot Friedman, like the guy is like he's connected in somewhere. Like he's the guy's connected with everybody, and he is the guy who breaks these stories and knows what's going on. And like it's amazing that the information that these guys have. I just
remember
I don't
Elliot
know,
Friedman
man.
like 8 years ago. Like, who's this guy and what's he doing
Yeah.
on TV? Like, who did he
Yeah.
pay? Like, who's he related to? And
Yeah,
but yeah, you know what I mean. So those things kind of go through your mind. Like, who owed the favor for this kid? But you know
Right.
what? He's super smart too, and he knows his stuff. And like you said, he works. From what I hear, he works really, really hard, and he's earned his stripes to get
Yes.
these insider stuff. But him and Jeff Merrick together—that's a smart sandwich, buddy.
it is. That is definitely a smart sandwich.
Fridays
Yes.
at 3. It is a smart
Friday
sandwich
at
or
3.
smart popcorn.
Just-
Yeah, on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, on
On
purpose for
purpose.
sure. Oh my
Smart
gosh.
sandwich.
Yeah. I don't know.
I was so speaking of Elliot and Jeff and the TV broadcasts. I was watching, who was it? It was the Montreal Columbus game this past week. So Montreal Columbus were playing. It's the intermission, and the part-time, whatever, the intermission show comes on. I think David Amber's on there, and the question pops up on the screen: who would you pick for the Four Nations roster? And I was
yes.
oh, okay, I'm interested. Four Nations roster, like what's going on here? And up flashes on the screen 2 pitchers. They have Drew Doughty, and beside Drew Doughty, they have Mackenzie Weegar.
What?
Which one
Mackenzie Weegar?
Right.
Weird.
About time Mackenzie Weegar's getting some love. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Anyways, so they put up this flash. They flash this thing on the screen. Who would you pick? Who would you pick? Doughty's been injured. He doesn't have a leg right now. It got chopped off in whatever kind of injury he had. Why is that even a debate or a question? That is the stupidest thing. Of course, it's Mackenzie Weegar. Why
Yeah,
would you? Come on.
It's not. You're right, buddy. There's not even a question. Drew Doughty can't even walk. So why is he being even thought about being able to come back? Is he going to be able to play? I mean, when do they actually play? It's in February when the Four Nations Cup is. Okay, but they have the pick somebody December 10. And can they do any like injury trade ups or anything? Did they say anything along that, or they can't? Who you say is on the team is on the team?
Yeah, so there was a request by 2 teams. I heard this on a podcast. It might have been Spittin' Chicklets, actually. And 2 teams requested to expand the rosters to 25 teams, which is international rules, not 23. Whoever the governing body of the Four Nations Cup is said no. So
And it was U.S. and Canada that both asked.
was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was U.S. and Canada. Yeah, for sure.
So, however that works, Mackenzie Weegar belongs on that team, and he has been playing. He is a man possessed. The guy's been fantastic to watch. He's been fantastic for the Calgary Flames. Like, again, how is this a debate? Obviously, it's Mackenzie Weegar. Yes, Doughty has some pedigree. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Doughty also cannot play hockey right now. Stupid
True.
question, stupid debate. Mackenzie Weegar's your guy. He's healthy. He's younger. He moves the puck well. He's a big, strong defenseman who does the right things. He's smart. Come on.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous question.
I agree. But you know who they just totally neglected? And not even as a top 7 or not even, I don't even think they put him in the top 10 for picking a defenseman, Morgan Riley. Morgan Riley was not even picked at all, which is surprising because up until this year, he was the one that was logging the most minutes for the Leafs, getting the power play time, doing these things, and so he was top of mind. But now that they've kind of sheltered him on that second pairing, right? Like, is he a 3-4 now, not a 1-2? And because of that, he's been totally forgotten. We should probably, do we want to tell that story now about Morgan Riley, or do you want to go somewhere else? We can save it.
So let's tease it as
okay.
We have a fun little Morgan Riley story. There's 2 parts to the story, which I absolutely love the second part of the story.
Yeah,
because it involved me calling you, being like, "Dude, guess what?"
Oh my God, so cool, so cool! It was awesome.
We'll
do next.
It was awesome.
Okay. All right, we'll do next
pod.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry, go ahead.
I do want to talk about Calgary, though. So I want to talk about the Calgary Flames in this overtime game that they played the other day. And there was, again, this is not the section of the podcast where I bitch about referees, but it is. I am going to bitch about the referees. The Calgary Flames take too many penalties. straight up, they take too many penalties. 9 penalties in the game. It's a 1-1 game, and
Oh my God.
you can't do that. It's overtime. So it's 1-1 versus the Detroit Red Wings. They go into overtime, and you have a good chance to beat a team that you probably should beat. You probably should beat Detroit, but a good team. Both teams are probably at the same level, and they take a too many men on the ice penalty. Now,
In overtime.
the situation in overtime. The situation is the play is coming down the left-hand side of the ice. So you have 3 Detroit Red Wings on the left side of the ice. You have 2 Calgary Flames going off for a trade, Friday at 3. You have 2 Calgary Flames going off for a change and 2 coming on. You have 1 guy, 1 Flame coming back, 2 guys hustling off the bench to join the play. The bench is on the right-hand side of the ice. So you have play on this side, bench on this side. 2 guys going this way, 2 guys coming off this way. The play is happening over here. What happens? The linesman calls too many men on the ice. Now, I read the rule. Rule number 72, I think it is. Too many men on the ice.
72, yeah.
It is up to the official's discretion on whether or not they want to call the penalty. That is the first part of the rule. The second part of the rule is that it is considered too many men on the ice if you make a change and you are not within 5 feet of the bench. Now,
5 feet. Got it.
5 feet. Connor Zary was probably 23 feet from the bench when the change happened. So, yes, he was definitely not within the 5 feet when it comes to the rule. I'd say the biggest injustice here is it is the official's discretion. Mm-hmm. If there was too many men on the ice and that impacted the play, and there was a way that you had 5 guys on the ice at one time, and you benefited from having 5 guys on the ice at one time, and it was in your end and at your bench or in the play, then I see, yes, it's a penalty. I get it. Or if you have possession of the puck. So if you have possession of the puck and everybody steps on the ice and everybody doesn't step off the ice, I'm with you 100%. I get it. I make that call if I'm an official, no problem. When you are at the opposing blue line making a change, you are like the blue and red line away from the play, and you're making a change, and the impact of that is nominal. Why in the world are you making that? What a suspect call in a game where you've already called 9 penalties.
In overtime. That's ridiculous.
No, here's the pickle. Here's the rub. It's in Detroit.
Okay. Makes sense, right? Wonder why that happened.
Mm-hmm. So to me, it's a major injustice that you called that penalty, that the official said that was an impactful enough event for me to call a penalty and change the dynamic of this game. I think there are too many officials trying to change the dynamics of these games.
And what was the outcome of that game, Rick?
Flames lost. They lost 2-1. They scored on the power play. Game over. The officials impacted that game in a way that they probably shouldn't have. In every technical aspect of the rule, I get it. Connor Zary was not 5 feet from the bench. Got it. Makes sense to me. I understand. In the official discretion, when you're 2 lines away, a blue line and a red line away, on the opposite side of the ice, away from the play, are you kidding me? Give your head a shake, you clown.
Yeah, I agree. It's disrespectful. You're right. Anytime a ref goes in and they change the outcome of the game, that's what really pisses everybody off. Like, you got to, and that part, and the other part that really makes everybody mad, regardless of what team you're a fan of, is the fairness and how they're calling the game. And even though sometimes they get in a scuffle and they pull 1 guy out, no, 2 guys are in the scuffle. This has happened. Pull both guys out. All we want is for it to be fair. Call it the same way for everybody. And that's really
balance.
Yeah. That's what pisses everybody off.
Yeah, balance. And when you go 9-1 in penalties, 9 penalties for Calgary and 1 penalty for Detroit, where's the balance? There is an unwritten rule. There's an etiquette to this, which is there's a balance. There's a balance in your player gets hit, I'm going to hit you. Your player gets knocked out, I'm going to knock you out.
Yeah.
We make a bad call, there's a makeup call. There's a balance in this game that seems to be missing with the officiating right now. And hey, maybe I'm wrong. It could be that I'm wrong. Technicality of the rule is that the rule got violated. But from a discretionary point, I can't make any sense of how that happened. And we're going to try and put the clip on here. I don't know if we can figure that out just yet, but we'll try and put the clip of the play, or maybe a screenshot of the play that shows you the 2 players leaving the ice, 2 players entering the ice, and how far from the play they were.
Tried to play to Tarasenko, turned over. And that's called Anderson, confused as the reason for the whistle here.
What do we got going here now? The linesman has made a call.
There was too many. I didn't think they were going to call that. And neither did Zary.
The linesman called it. So there's the change. 2 come off. Zary's off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. They're not going to like the change, the cheat change, I guess.
And the fact that the linesman called it is just even more ridiculous. Like,
it makes it even worse. He should have at least had a conversation with the ref if he's even considering, blowing that whistle. That was
come on, NHL.
The call.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be better. That's what I'm saying. Be better. NHL.
Be better.
Be better.
Sorry, the only other thing that I wanted to touch on, we did talk about, maybe again we can talk about it next week as well, is Joseph Woll. And wow, like this guy has really, really risen. And I thought that, after him being injured and everything that was going on with him, that he was going to kind of slink off to the side and not show up. But this kid is showing up in spades. He's done an amazing job, and he's really pushing Anthony Stolarz to be all he can be. And they're both playing fantastic. And I think as a team, the team save percentage is the best in the league. Mm-hmm. And they're really, really, as much as Matthews not being there, Marner and Nylander doing what they were doing, the big reason why we are where we are is because our goaltending. And kudos to Joseph Woll. It looks like Stolarz and Woll have a good camaraderie back and forth, and they had a good, back and forth with that and helping each other, which is great. And I even saw a fun little clip about Woll at the end of the game where he shut out the 3-0 shutout, where he was going up and he was leaving the ice at the end of the game, and he was doing this little jig that he did at the end of the game. He was having fun, man. It was great. It was great to see.
Great to see, and it's exciting that the Leafs potentially arguably have the best 1-2 punch in the league in goaltending. Like, would you say, can you think of a better 1-2 punch in net?
Nope. Not currently. No, I can't. I think right now they are the best 1-2. I can't think of anything. Hellebuck. Who's Hellebuck's backup? I think it's
Comrie.
Comrie?
Yeah,
so
Comrie,
is it Comrie? Yeah, so no. But yeah, I can't. Sorry. They are the best.
I think we can say today, on Friday, November 29th, Black Friday, that the Toronto Maple Leafs definitely have the best 1-2 punch in net with Stolarz and Joseph Woll. And they are looking fantastic. They look like this is a playoff tandem in goalies. It is fantastic and good news for Toronto.
Yep, I'm with you, brother. So good. I love it.
Hey, we're kind of at the end of the podcast here, so
okay.
I think what I want to wrap up with is we've got some social media channels going on. So you can hear us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Podbean, on a couple other podcast channels or venues. You can connect with us on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, and we want you to. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear about your hot takes and what you think about what's happening with potential trades and potential moves in the league, or the lack of trades and lack of moves, about the rules, about the officiating, about any kind of major injustices. We want to hear from you, and we want to hear your ideas to talk about. I've appreciated that we've had the chance to engage with some people that have listened to the pod, and we just want to kind of keep doing that and keep hearing from you. And hopefully I hope we're going to have a guest next week that is going to explain a few fun things for us. They're going to explain Friday at 3. We're not going to explain that today. It is a Friday. It's a little bit after 3 where I am, but it is a lovely and fun story that is just shrouded in ridiculousness.
Oh my God, for sure it is. It's so funny.
And maybe the queen of accurate nicknames, and I'm hoping that person gets to join us next week. Just a skilled nicknamer.
She's very, very good. And the only thing that I have to say before you end it, Rick, is that Shane just pointed at me. He's almost finished peeing. You done? You done? Okay. He'll be here next week.
He's almost there. And Shane will be here next week. All right. Awesome.
I think so.
Well, thanks, folks. It was great to chat with you again. Thanks for listening to our BS, and we'll look forward to chatting with you again next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Hockey Huddle and hanging out with us through all the slap shots, big hits, and highlight reel plays. Whether you're a diehard fan or just getting into the game, We appreciate you being part of our hockey family. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and hit us up on social media with your thoughts, questions, or hot takes. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice, your head up, and we'll catch you in the next period. Take care, everyone.